Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for hopping in another day with an amazing, guest speaker. So, by the way, if it's your first time meeting me, my name is Martin Wanyema. I'm a math student studying medical radiography, my third year. And apart from my medical studies, I'm also a proficient freelance medical content writer. And today I have an amazing guest speaker. Hey, Chantal, could you introduce yourself to the audience?
Of course. Hi, everyone. My name is Chantal Corbin, and I'm currently a final year medical student studying at Cardiff University in the United Kingdom. Thank you for having me.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. Thank you so much for introducing yourself, Chantal. So we got a couple of questions for you to answer. You ready?
Yes, I'll do my best.
Yeah, we just don't you don't need an expert answers, right? You just share your own narrative so that the audience will get, the clarity of those questions, right?
Of course.
All right, so if I'm looking downwards, I'm reading the questions to Chantel, right? Now, before I ask you those questions, she's one of the hosts of Men's School Extra because I talked about it on my YouTube with Davis, Christina Davis. So she's one of the hosts at Men's School Extra. You can check out the company. It's an amazing company that has a lot of, you know, events that could help you as a math student or any related health, you know, race you're in. So go check it out. So the first question is, so if I'm looking downwards, I'm reading the questions to Chantel, so you won't be wondering what's not answer looking downwards for. So the first question goes this way. Now, how has your experience as a final year medic influenced your approach to personal education and health promotion? Tell me.
That's a great question. I think it's not just being in final year of medical school, but my entire journey through medical school that has influenced my passion in health and fitness. So I got to obviously through lectures and different tutorials understand, the anatomy and physiology of the body, what goes right, how it's supposed to work, and also what can go wrong. And through that, I was able to appreciate preventative medicine and how we can take control and responsibility of our own health to a certain extent, and keep ourselves healthy as best as we can. And that is through not only eating healthy, but moving our bodies. And when I first started medical school, I became really interested in fitness for my personal health. But I always like to share the knowledge that I gain with others. And that's why I started my Instagram page where I share fitness content. And also, speaking to patients, I try to include a little bit of information about health and fitness so that when they leave the hospital or when they leave the GP practice, they can think about how they can take a certain amount of accountability and responsibility of their own health.
Amazing, amazing. Where did you get the inspiration to focus on fitness? What drove you to that inspiration?
Well, when I first started medical school in year one, actually, I found it quite lonely and it was quite difficult for me to make friends. It was a completely different environment because I was an international student who moved thousands of miles from the Caribbean to the United Kingdom. And I wanted to find something that I could distract myself with. And fitness was something that I saw, but I never really dabbled in. I wasn't very good at physical education in secondary school, but I decided to sign up and register at a gym, and I just grew to love it. I liked the challenge, pushing my physical and mental limitations to see how strong I could get, both physically and mentally. And my love for it just grew from there. Really, it wasn't something that I planned; it just happened.
Amazing, and it's amazing that you followed your passion. This is an amazing nugget for many people out there. If you're interested in something like Chantel, She wasn't really interested in fitness, and she went for it, and she's really doing amazingly well. And I know that her clients are really, getting a whole lot of positive feedbacks because I'm a witness of her journey. So if you're really passionate about something, if you're passionate about medicine, you're passionate about anything, just go for it. Thank you so much for sharing that, Chantel.
No
So
problem.
that draws me to the second question. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Yes.
It's a bit tricky, so but let me
Okay.
ask you the question since you say you're ready. So can you share some of your thoughts, about the intersection of medical knowledge and physical education in your practice? Tell us.
Some of my thoughts. Um, I think that there is a lot of misinformation currently being spread on the internet when it comes to the intersection of medical education and fitness. And I think it's because it has become a very saturated field. Years ago, when I first started, yes, there were people and personal trainers on YouTube and Instagram showing their workouts, but it was nowhere near as saturated as it is now. And I think the problem is, whereas in medical school or to be a doctor, you have to have a license, a registration, you have to have a certificate showing that you have that knowledge. A lot of people in the fitness industry don't have to have um, that official registration or official certification. There are people who train clients every day and they don't have official certifications that they're a personal trainer or a fitness trainer. It's just that they may have the physique or they may have the experience, and therefore people entrust their health in them. And on one hand, I think that's great, but it can come with a lot of dangers as well, because people may not know how to train clients with certain past medical histories, with certain past injuries or current injuries. So I think we need to be a bit more stringent with that, with who you allow to train you and who you entrust your fitness with. That's why I like the fact that I studied medicine and I have that background based on knowing how the body works to a certain extent. Um, and I think that it's important, whether you like fitness or not, because you have a responsibility to give your patients information about how they can maintain a healthy lifestyle. And I think whether you are passionate about it for your personal life or not, you owe it to your patients to deliver that information. And studies actually show that doctors and different healthcare professionals who are passionate about it and who do it for themselves are more likely to include healthy eating and physical activity in consultations than clinicians who don't engage in it for their own.
Amazing, amazing. Chantel, you still there? Hello? Hello? All right. Thank you so much, Chantel, for sharing that with us. So I want to ask you a question because I read a publication about, um, the UK healthcare system about having some underdiagnosis for like diseases like ADHD, right? So tell me, in your own perspective, how is the healthcare system in the UK?
I like that you asked this question because I recently finished my elective in Tanzania. So I got to appreciate the differences in healthcare systems in different countries. And I think we're very privileged to have the National Healthcare Service, the NHS, in the UK. It offers free healthcare to citizens and residents within the United Kingdom. And that is something that not everyone can say they're fortunate enough to receive. So I think the mere fact that you can wake up feeling unwell, call a doctor or go to A&E, irrespective of waiting times, and not have to worry about whether you have enough money in your bank account to pay for that service is such a beautiful thing. And when I was thinking about where I wanted to study, I didn't want it to be a case where I would have to think about what medication I wanted to give, what medication I could give the patient, or what investigations I had to do versus omit because of what the patient can and can't afford. I like that in the NHS, doctors can give patients everything that they require for effective management, irrespective of whether you're wealthy or not.
This is the reason why I asked you that question, because when I saw that you did your elective in that country, I knew that there will be a difference, So that's why I asked that question. You guys are really privileged, especially in Europe. But we Africans, we're still struggling, especially in the healthcare system. But I believe that they're working on it. So thank you so much for talking us through about the healthcare system in the UK. So wait, hold on. What is the meaning of HEMS? What does that mean?
So that's helicopter emergency medical services.
Did you say helicopter?
Helicopter, yeah.
Wait, what does that mean?
So in the UK, we're also very fortunate to have what's called air ambulances, and they are dispatched to the most critically ill patients in areas where the terrain is either too difficult for a land ambulance to reach, or the time that it will take for a land ambulance to reach would be detrimental to the patient. Or the ambulance can reach there, and they have, but they determined that the patient is so critical that they need a doctor who's skilled in certain procedures that the paramedics are not skilled in. So the air ambulance always has a doctor on board that is dispatched to those critically ill patients and can do procedures on the roadside to stabilize those patients before they're transferred to the hospital. So procedures like thoracostomies or even given blood products, paramedics are unable to do, but with a doctor on board, patients can receive those life-saving interventions.
Okay, so to get something straight here, do, who sends the helicopter or the plane to the doctor? Is it a hospital or the government? Who does that?
So it depends on the region you're in, but most air ambulances are run solely on the goodwill of citizens in the UK because it's a charitable organization. So donations are what keep the ambulance service, well, sorry, the air ambulance running. So for instance, in Wales, where I do my medical school, the air ambulance is based on charitable donations, and that's why people, they run marathons, they raise money, and they donate it to the air ambulance to keep them in operation. So, for instance, if the ambulance service gets a call that someone has unfortunately been stabbed on the roadside, right? The paramedics will be dispatched and they will do what they can to that patient to help them. But they may think, okay, this patient needs a few more interventions that we're unable to administer because we're not trained in those areas. So then they will talk to the dispatch in the ambulance service and say, can we, what they call scramble the air ambulance? So the air ambulance has the pilot, the doctor, and a critical care practitioner on board who will then fly to that area and then give the necessary additional interventions to that patient to hopefully save their life.
That sounds an amazing career path you've ventured into. Wait, what? How did you come about this? Inspiration. Say, hey, I want to focus on this aspect because I'm really in love with that course. You don't need to pay for ticket to just send you over some plane. You just enter and just go for work. It's amazing. So, how did you get the inspiration to pursue that career up until your finals?
Well, I'm still in my final year, so it's an aspiration and it's something that I'm definitely working towards, but I haven't actually started working in that field yet because I have to go through my specialty training. However, when I did my emergency medicine rotation, that was my best rotation, hands down. It's the most memorable rotation. And even though I did it a couple of years ago, whenever someone asks me, what did you enjoy the most? I always say emergency medicine. And then there's a clinician who uh, if you study in Wales, you know her. Her name is Dr. Amy Jones, and she was one of the co-founders of the Welsh Air Ambulance. So she's a consultant anaesthetist, an intensive care consultant, and she also is in the military along with working with the air ambulance. And really, what she does is an inspiration to me. And I talked to her on my podcast about it, about how you get into the field. What does she love about it? What does she not love so much? And it just gave me further insight into it. And it's such an adrenaline rush. It's always a challenge. No one day is the same, and some days are really hectic and you see loads of interesting things, and other days you're just on the airbase waiting for a call to come in. And just hearing her tell her story about it and her journey made me that much more interested in it. And I haven't set my heart on doing emergency medicine because you can be an anesthetist or an intensive care doctor and still work with the air ambulance. So I'm still thinking about which one of those three specialties I would prefer to stick with.
Hmm, hmm, hmm. Wow, that's a lot there. But thank you so much for sharing that with us, Chantal.
It
So
is a
that
lot,
drew
yeah.
me is a lot. Honestly, it's really a lot. So that draws me to the third question, right? So as an aspiring HEMS, like you explained, physician, how do you balance the demands of medical school with your commitment and your podcast commitment? Because I'm in your shoes, right? Like you own a podcast, I also own a YouTube, and balancing the commitment from med school, from my writings, businesses, and from my YouTube is really stressful, really draining. So I want to hear from you how you balance the demands of your med school with your commitments and your podcast commitments. Tell us.
Well, firstly, as you said, you understand what shoes I'm in because you do something similar and you dabble in a lot of responsibilities and you do it so well. So good job on that. What I found is that organizing your time is the best way forward. And that may seem like such an oversimplified answer, but when I'm not organized, I watch my productivity decrease and I watch the quality of any work that I produce decrease. And that's because I don't adequately set aside time for each of my responsibilities. So I use, I'm not sure if you heard of it, but I use the platform Notion, which is an online platform that you can just separate your resources and tasks into. And that when I started using that platform, I wish I knew about it in like first year of medical school because my productivity just like increased exponentially. Um, so I try to keep up with that. And I think prioritizing is also really important because you can have so many things to do. As you said, you listed some of them, but it's like, what is most urgent at this time? Or what can wait until next week or tomorrow to do? Um, and there is a matrix, I think it's called I hope I don't butcher the name, an Eisenhower matrix, which is like a cube of four squares, and it teaches you how to prioritize each of your tasks. So it separates it into like, is it urgent or non-urgent? Is it important right now or is it not important right now? And you can just write each of the tasks you have to do into each of those boxes and then go from there. So that's also helped me a lot. And it's not just with podcasting and the demands of medical school, but also with the extracurricular activities that I do with my fitness. It's just my entire life is organized using those methods, really.
And I believe that you've learned some of a lot of people's experiences through your podcast, right?
Yes, definitely.
You've invited a lot of medical professionals to talk about. I really love your podcast because you're
Thank you.
really you don't really focus on med students. You focus on people already in that field, like medical doctors or any kind of medical professionals, and the share expat narrative and those questions you ask them, which are really amazing. You're really doing a great job, honestly.
Well, thank you so
Mm.
much.
All right, so The fourth question goes this way. You ready?
Yeah.
You ready?
Hmm.
Are you sure?
Yes, I think so.
All right. So, what misconceptions about health and wellness do you hope to debunk on the Doctor's Opinion podcast episode? So, tell us.
Ooh, what misconceptions do I want to debunk?
I
Um,
told you. I told you. I was asking you ready. You said yes. So, tell me you're ready.
so the aim of the Doctor's Insight podcast was for me to get knowledge about what the realities of working in different specialties entailed. We see on medical dramas, like we grew up watching medical dramas, whether it be Grey's Anatomy, ER, Good Doctor, you name it. And it gives a false representation of what actually working in these specialties entails. But that is not a good thing because when we say we want to work in a specific specialty because we have an idea of what it may be like rather than actually the reality of it, we might be in a job that we're not satisfied with, and that leads to burnout and poor job retention within the NHS. And that is something that I wanted to help resolve. So I wanted to give medical students enough information for them to go and make informed decisions about their future career path. So I want to know from consultants and specialist registrars in the field, what is your job really like? Was it what you expected it to be? And if not, why wasn't it what you expected it to be? And give the listeners that insight into what do I have to do to get in that specialty? How should I improve my CV? Who can I talk to in terms of gaining knowledge about what the specialty is like? What are some mistakes that the guests talked about that I can avoid making? Like I want to give them that foresight that the consultants on my podcast may not have been given when they were in our position. Because I, for one, don't want to get into a specialty and say this is nothing like what I thought it would be. And obviously, I'm not going to know that until I'm actually in the specialty. But with the podcast and some of the answers that the guests do deliver, I can have a bit more information to make that decision about what I want my career path to look like.
Amazing. So, before you make an invite of a medical professional on your podcast, what are the things you see first? Maybe, hey, Dr. Allison as a medical doctor, stuff like that. What do you see in one of your guest speakers that you invite them?
So within the NHS, we have a specific list of specialties that are registered within different colleges, as we like to say. So I have a list of those, and I want to talk to as many doctors within those specialties, or want to get as many guests from each of those specialties as possible. So I just tick them off as I go, not necessarily in order. But to look for a guest, the first thing I do is go on LinkedIn because that's the place of networking professionally, isn't it? And at first, it's really funny because I am quite shy. And I thought to myself, they're not going to want to waste their time talking to me. Like, I'm a medical student, they have so many better things to do. So, one of the things I actually looked for on LinkedIn was their profile picture. And I wanted to see whether it gave off an inviting aura or not. And that just goes to show how first impressions can be so impactful because if the picture didn't look inviting, I wouldn't risk sending a message. Um, Whereas someone with a more inviting profile picture, I would more likely contact. But then I also looked at were they active on LinkedIn because that increased my likelihood of actually getting a response. And I read their about section to see what interests them, what accolades they've been given, not because accolades are the end all and be all, but because they would have more experiences to touch on and more value to give to the listeners.
Wow, wow, that's really amazing, really, really amazing. And you have an amazing guest speakers, to be honest, because I've literally watched most of your podcasts, so I can really testify that those are amazing, questions, especially your questions are really very tricky sometimes. Sometimes you make the guest speaker pause a little bit before answering. I'm very observant, so you're really doing a great job. Thank you so
Oh,
much.
glad
And
you enjoy it.
yeah. I mean, it's not easy at all. Balancing med school and doing what you're doing. Also, fitness is it's a whole nother game, honestly. So, thank you so much for sharing that with us. So, we have two more questions to go, Chantel.
Okay.
So, the fifth question goes this way. So, in a nutshell, how do you incorporate evidence-based medicine into your personal education in your own narrative? So, tell us.
Evidence based medicine is not something I considered until it was drilled into me in medical school. Um, and now I try to apply it to any area of my life. Whether I'm reading a self help book that talks about all these different theories, I look at what is the evidence behind this? Are they just saying that this is a theory, or does it actually have research and robust results behind it, robust methodology and things? But in terms of medicine specifically, when I do my self directed learning to learn about a new condition, um, I make sure that I go on reputable resources and medical platforms to take my information from to write in my notes. So I don't just Google something and take the first answer that comes up on the top of the page, because honestly, we know that some of these websites, they pay for their position on a Google search list, and that isn't enough. So when I look for resources for my medical information, I look at how well known are these resources, and what are the credits behind the founders of these websites. So, are they medical students themselves? Are they doctors? Are they other healthcare professionals? If they're not, I'm probably not going to use that resource because it's not as credible as I would like it to be. And then, even when you're in a GP practice, and you ask the general practitioner a question, they may not know that answer, but they have a list of websites that they know they can turn to that are reputable and have robust research behind them. And from their practices, I have also learned that I can do that. You don't have to say or pretend that you know an answer to a certain question. You can say, I'm not sure, but I will look at this for you. And you can go and make sure that you look at it in a textbook or an online resource that is credible, and then get that information back to the patient.
Wow. Oof. You made me speechless, honestly, Chantel. I'm really speechless right now.
Too kind.
Wait, why are you interested in physical education? Wait, you do a whole lot of things, honestly. Like you're really interested in a lot of things. Like you're interested in physical education. You're interested in medical education. You're interested in fitness. So many interests of you. So
Yeah.
why are you interested in physical education? Because you said you were very good at it, way back. So how are you still finding some interest in physical education before we wrap up the session?
Well, physical education is, um, as I said, when I started university, something that I became interested in. And for me, it's not easy for me to lose interest in something that I'm really interested in. And with physical education, you can challenge yourself every day. So I go to gym 5 days a week, and I've been doing that since 5, 6 years ago when I started medical school. And I'm still interested in it because you can always change it up. You can change up your training style. You can do bodybuilding, powerlifting, athletic training. You can do cardio. So it never becomes monotonous. And when it does, that's my cue to change it up a bit. Um, and for me, it used to be driven by um, aesthetics. So I wanted to train because I wanted to have a certain physique. But for me now, I do it because I want to be healthy today so that I can live well in the future. And I also want to continue to push myself. It's also a place where I feel at home and I relieve my stress. So after placement or after exams, the first place that I want to go is the gym. Not because I have to, but because I want to. And, the release of the happy hormones, as they say, the serotonin, the dopamine, um, is such a lovely feeling. And I owe it to my body to keep it as healthy as I can, because if I can't take care of patients if I don't even take care of myself, if that makes sense.
I think the last statement you just made sums everything up. I'm not going to go further. You just summed everything up. It's an evidence base that if you're living healthy, that means definitely your clients or your patients will definitely be healthy as well. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. So we have the last question, Chantel.
Okay, I'm excited to hear what the last question is.
All right. So what advice would you give to viewers to improve their bodies while protecting their health? So tell us.
This is a lot of pressure. Okay. I would say that if you read my LinkedIn bio, you would see that I talked about there being a misconception that if you are a doctor or a medical student, because of the sheer volume of work you have to do, that you're not expected to also thrive physically and health wise, that it's okay to slip off a bit. But I want to change the narrative and help medical students and clinicians to take charge of their health and understand that whether you be busy or not, there is time that you can also dedicate to taking care of yourself. You don't need an hour or an hour and a half each day to go to the gym. You don't even need to go to a gym. You can run for half an hour, you can run for 20 minutes, you can do a high intensity interval training for 45 minutes, and you don't have to do it every day. You can do it between 3 to 5 times a week. So, really, it's not about whether you can do it, it's whether it is within your top list of priorities. And I think that it should be, whether you're a clinician, whether in your healthcare field or not, because we tend to think of things long term. We seek short term gratification instead of long term rewards. But challenging yourself every day, exercising every day in whatever means that will be, it's going to be painful in the temporary, in the short term span of things, but it will benefit you in the long term. So yeah, that's my advice.
That was an amazing nugget. I am my hands are off from it. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. We've come to the end of the session, Chantel. Thank you so much for honoring our invite, for helping in to being a guest speaker to share your own narrative on these questions. So before we wrap up the session, so what are your last word for the audience?
I hope it was useful, something that I said, and thank you so much for thinking me worthy of an invitation. Really, sometimes I just wonder if there's any advice that I can give that will actually be valuable, but hopefully something I said resonates with the viewers.
Amazing. It does actually. It does. So do well to subscribe, like, comment, and share to your network, and hopefully someone in your network could definitely appreciate this video. Thank you, Chantel. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.